This is a short video about replacing the odometer gear in an instrument cluster. It is done under the assumption that you have watched the video console removal, which also includes how to get the instrument cluster out of the car, and do have the cluster in front of you on the table. It very often happens, well, not very often, it almost always happens that you have an SC where the speedometer works perfectly, but you do not see any progress in miles, total miles, or in the day trip odometer. And I'm going to show you how this is going to be repaired. The gear needs to be replaced. There's a tiny gear in there that needs to be replaced, and it's not very difficult. So I assume they have watched the video about replacing the cover of the instrument cluster. So at the point when this is taken apart, it looks like this, and it's going to be the screw down here, that one, and that on the other side, that need to be unscrewed. There's one down here. And another one over here. And when these are taken out, the whole speedometer comes out. Part that breaks is this little gear here. It runs on a worm gear. Just a moment. This worm gear turns and drives this gear. And on that one, I don't know if it's visible in the camera, but there is a crack right here. It's probably not possible to transmit that. But that is typical for these gears. They crack and break, and that is it. I'm going to replace this now. There is two different speedometers for the two different differential ratios that the cars have in the US. 345 to 1, which is the most common, and 370 to 1. This one, the 345 to 1, has 16 teeth and a Wegezahl, that is literally way number, of W1116, 1116. What this means is that in German cars this number is always printed on the face of the speedometer. It means it does so and so many turns to go 1 kilometer. And I assume, I don't know, but assume this is for miles, because the number is just higher in the right for the right proportion, one of 1.61. I assume this one does 1116 turns for 1 mile. The other version does 980, so it has W equals 980. The 980 has 14 teeth. So it's either going to be, moment, $14 teeth for the 980, or 16, just what are we going to need for this one to repair it. The way to do this is to lever this one off with a screwdriver. Doesn't matter if it breaks, because it's broken anyway, or even if it were okay, it would break soon. There it goes. And then this one, the new one, which is symmetrical. Doesn't matter in which direction it goes on. It's going to be pushed on here, and you won't be able to do this with your hand. So there's a little trick that I use. I'm going to show you that device. Okay, so you need to use this tab of the speedometer. If you look at the front, you need that one. Put it in here, just a tiny bit, and tighten it, but not hard, just so it's secure. And then I use a quarter-inch drive extension that fits over here. Then the goal is to hammer this down so it's centered on the worm gear. Just ever so carefully. And this went a bit too far. So now we need to leave it back a bit, because it's at the moment hitting the frame here, and it can't do that, because then it's not going to work. Okay, now it is centered over the worm gear, but it does not touch the frame of the speedometer. That's how it needs to be. So if you look at this now, the gear is pretty much in the center. The plane of the gear is in the center of the worm gear, and this should be a speedometer that's good to go. And now the speedometer can be put back in the cluster. You can see it's also easy to align. We have 2 holes here on this side, 2 holes on this side, and 2 tabs that the lower 2 holes hook into. But before that I would put the screws in, because it's not that easy, at least not with a short screwdriver, to get around the speedometer. Of course, none of these have to be tightened with crazy force. You just need to be able to make sure that it's not going to be rattling or anything. And then the last step is to again put the speedometer reset or odometer reset through this hole here. Put the bottom bit on first, and then again snap it on the top and put the 2 screws back in. Okay, and there we have a fully functional instrument cluster again with the new odometer gear. And I can not forget to mark it so I know what I have. Thanks for watching and until next time.